In the quiet heart of Duoma village, where the wind carried secrets and the earth remembered every footstep, people whisper about one family more than any other, the family of Chief Camelou, the billionaire whose wealth stretched farther than the village river. His mansion stood tall on the hill, like a stubborn king refusing to bow. But even from that height, the whispers of the villagers climbed up to him, carried by the harmattan breeze. They whispered about his only son, Darren Camelou, a boy born into wealth but wrapped in loneliness. He had everything money could buy: private tutors, polished shoes, shining toys, and guards at every door. But he lacked the one thing that mattered most in Duoma village: a mother's presence. His mother had died when he was young, and though Chief Camelou tried to fill that emptiness with gifts, the boy grew up proud, sharp-tongued, and careless with people's feelings. Villagers often said, "A child raised without warmth grows into a man who fears the sun." And they were right. At only 16, Darren had already developed the arrogance of a king. When he walked through the village, he didn't greet the elders. When he entered the market, he expected traders to move aside. And when he returned to mansion, the staff held their breath, because the slightest mistake could send him into a storm of anger. But no one knew that behind his harsh words is a fear he could not explain, a fear of being alone, a fear of losing the little love he believed he still had. Soon, the village would discover that even pride can tremble, even arrogance can collapse, and even a wealthy child can cry. It happened on a warm evening, when the sky glowed gold like a calabash filled with palm wine. Darren was studying his room when suddenly his vision blurred. At first, he blinked rapidly, annoyed, but the blur didn't leave. Instead, it grew thicker, darker, heavier, until he could not see the book in his hands. He rubbed his eyes, but the world remained dark. Panic crept up his spine like a scorpion ready to sting. "Papa," he shouted, stumbling out of the room. "Papa, I can't see." The house shook with footsteps. Guards rushed in. Maids gasped. Chief Camelou ran up the stairs with fear chasing him like a wild beast. "What is it? What happened to you, my son?" he cried, gripping the boy's shoulders. I don't know." Darren sobbed. "Everything is black." The staff watched with trembling hands. Even they, who often feared the boy's temper, felt their hearts soften, because when a child cries in true fear, even a stone can melt. Doctors were called immediately, 6 of them. They arrived with shining bags, expensive machines, and confident faces. But after hours of tests, whispers, and frustration, they all ended their examination with the same confused expression. One doctor cleared his throat cautiously and said, "Chief Camelou, your son seems to be suffering from sudden neurological blindness. But we don't know what caused it." "What do you mean you don't know?" Chief Camelou shouted, his voice echoing to the hall like thunder breaking a tree. "You are the best doctors in the city." The doctor lowered his head. "There is no physical damage, no injury, no disease. His eyes are healthy, but something is preventing them from seeing." The word struck Chief Camelou's heart like a hammer. His son was blind, but not blind. Sick, but not sick. A mystery no money could solve. For the first time in years, the mansion felt truly powerless. Within a day, the news spread across Duoma village like wildfire. "Did you hear? The billionaire's son has gone blind." "Ah, who cursed the boy? Maybe it's punishment. That child has been rude to everyone." No. Perhaps the ancestors are teaching the family a lesson. Gossip grew like weeds after rain. Women paused their laundry to discuss it. Men at the palm wine hut argued loudly. Elders rubbed their chins, muttering ancient proverbs. But there was one voice that rose above all. Elder Nwoke, the oldest man in the village, who said softly, "When a child loses a path, sometimes the ancestors cover his eyes so his heart may finally open." People nodded slowly. In Duoma, words like that carried weight. Back at the mansion, life changed overnight. Darren, who once walked with confidence, now clung to walls, trembling at sounds he could not see. The boy who insulted workers now depended on them to guide him. The boy who felt superior now feared every corner of the house. Chief Camelou grew more desperate each day. He hired more doctors, specialists, traditional healers, even spiritualists. They burned herbs, chanted, placed charms under the boy's pillow. Nothing changed. Darren remained blind. The mansion, once bustling with confidence, now lived under a cloud of dread. One afternoon, while interviewing new domestic staff, the chief's assistant introduced a young girl, barely 21, quiet, humble, dressed in a simple blue wrapper and headscarf. Her name was Amara, and she had come from a distant village. She was applying to be the new maid. Chief Camelot barely looked at her. His mind was drowning in fear for his son. But when Darren was led into the room, struggling to walk, Amara's eyes softened with a strange, quiet understanding, as if she saw something others did not. The assistant whispered, "Sir, should we let her start today?" Chief Camelot waved his hand dismissively. "Do whatever you want. Nothing matters if my son remains like this." Amara bowed her head respectfully and stepped forward to guide Darren gently. But the moment her hand touched his arm, Darren jerked away. "Don't touch me. I don't need help," he snapped. The room froze. Everyone expected Amara to shrink back in fear. Instead, she simply spoke in a calm voice. "I understand, young master. Blindness is not the absence of light. It is the beginning of truth." Her words were soft, but they struck the room like lightning. Chief Camelot stared at her, confused. The assistant blinked rapidly, and for a moment, even Darren stopped breathing, because somehow, the boy felt something shift inside him the moment she spoke. Something he could not explain, something he could not escape, something he would soon learn was no ordinary sentence. But no one knew that this young maid, quiet, gentle, unknown, carried a secret powerful enough to change the fate of the entire Camelot family. A secret she had guarded all her life. A secret that would begin to reveal itself the moment she whispered those words again. And what followed would shake not only the mansion, but the entire village. For days after Amara arrived at the mansion, the air inside the great house felt different. It was as though a quiet wind followed her footsteps, soft, calm, almost healing. She never raised her voice, never complained, and never showed fear, even when Darren lashed out in frustration. And he did, often. Blindness had stripped the young billionaire son of his confidence, and every day felt like a battle he didn't know how to fight. He hated being helpless. He hated depending on people. And he hated that Amara, the new maid, seemed to understand him far more than the doctors who examined him, or even his father who showered him with gifts. Whenever he stumbled, she was there before he hit the ground. Whenever he grew angry, she remained calm, her voice steady like water smoothing a rough stone. But something about her troubled him deeply. Whenever she spoke those strange, gentle sentences filled with meaning he could not grasp, his heart tightened. Blindness is the beginning of truth. Darkness only visits those who refuse to face their shadow. Pain is a message from the soul. Who taught her such things? Why did her words feel like they came from somewhere older than the village itself? The mansion staff whispered about it, passing their thoughts from room to room. "That girl, Amara, she talks like an elder in a young woman's body," one cook murmured. "She calmed the boy without even touching him." "How?" a guard whispered. "I don't know. But her presence, it's different," a laundress replied, glancing over her shoulder as though afraid Amara might hear. But gossip inside the mansion was nothing compared to the storm brewing outside. News spreads quickly in Duomo village, faster than smoke from a burning hut. Within 2 days, every corner of the village buzzed with talk of the billionaire's sudden decision to hire a young, unknown maid from a faraway place. "Have you seen the new maid?" Women at the marketplace asked each other. "No, but I heard she speaks like a priestess," another answered, arranging yams in her basket. School children whispered about it under the mango tree. Palm wine drinkers argued about it until their voices grew hoarse. Even the elders took notice. They sat beneath the large ancestral tree, their walking sticks resting against their knees, discussing the matter with heavy voices. Elder Nwoke cleared his throat, the way he always did before speaking wisdom. "Sometimes," he said, "the ancestors send help wrapped in cloth we do not recognize." The men nodded. "But why now?" another elder asked. Why did this girl come at the same moment the boy lost his sight? The elders exchanged troubled glances. In their world, coincidence did not exist, only meaning. One elder leaned closer and whispered, "What if the girl is meant to reveal a truth we have all ignored?" The others fell silent. Back at the mansion, Chief Camelou was growing restless. His business partners were calling him nonstop. Investors were panicking. His empire was beginning to shake because of his son's unexplained blindness. But worst of all, the fear of losing his only child was slowly eating him alive. One evening, after pacing to the hallways like a man possessed, he found Amara helping Darren eat his dinner. "Why are you bending the spoon that way?" Darren snapped at her in frustration. "I told you, don't treat me like a baby." Amara said nothing. She simply adjusted the plate. Chief Camelou's patience cracked. "Young lady," he barked, "come with me. Now." Amara nodded gently and followed him to his private study. The chief slammed the door shut. "I don't know who you are," he said, pacing back and forth. "You speak strangely, you act strangely, and suddenly my son listens to you more than anyone else. Even doctors. What are you really doing here?" Amara lowered her eyes respectfully. "Sir, I am only doing my job." "No." Chief Camelou thundered. "You are doing something else. Something I can't explain. You say things that shake the room." Amara lifted her gaze slowly. "Chief Payne listens to truth. Your son has been carrying a wound deeper than blindness." Chief Camelou stiffened. "What do you mean?" Amara took a breath, as though choosing her words carefully. "Your son didn't just lose his sight," she said softly. "He lost the light your home should have given him. He is blind outside because he has been blind inside for a long time." The chief blinked, stunned. It felt as though someone had thrown cold water on him. "How dare you?" he started. But Amara continued gently. "Sir, when last did you sit with him? Not as a father giving instructions, but as a father listening to the silence inside your child heart." Chief Camelou had no answer. His voice cracked for the first time in years. "Young girl, you speak as though you know my family." Amara bowed her head. "I only know what the heart shows." The chief stared at her, speechless. No doctor had spoken like this. No specialist had said anything close. And yet, her words cut deeper than any diagnosis. Meanwhile, Darren sat alone in his room, his fingers trembling over the bedsheets. He hated the darkness. He hated the silence. But what he hated most was himself. For years, he had hidden behind pride. Now he had nothing left to hide behind. He heard the door open quietly. "Amara," he whispered. "Yes, young master." "Why?" His voice trembled. "Why did this happen to me?" Amara stepped closer, her footsteps soft like rain on banana leaves. "Because," she said gently, "the boy you would never become the man you are meant to be." Darren swallowed hard. "Do you think I'll ever see again?" She hesitated. The pause terrified him. "Amara, tell me the truth." She finally spoke. "The answer does not lie in your eyes. It lies in your heart." He turned his face away, tears silently falling. The girl watched him with a sadness that did not belong to someone her age, as though she already knew the deeper truth, as though she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Outside the mansion, things were spiraling. A rumor spread through the village. Chief Camelou has hired a mysterious maid who speaks wise like a spirit woman. It is said she holds a secret to the boy's blindness. Some say she was sent by the ancestors. Others feared her. Some respected her. But all were curious. And soon, elders began planning something. A meeting. A gathering under the great tree. A gathering that would change everything. Because the villagers believed that if something affected the chief's household, it affected the entire community. And they were determined to know the truth behind Darren's blindness and Amara's sudden arrival. The drums of gossip beat louder. The tension thickened. And soon, the whole village would be watching. For 3 full days, Nuoma village buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Rumors circled faster than the harmattan wind. Some villagers believed Amara was a blessing. Others believed she was a curse. But everyone agreed on one thing. Something powerful was happening inside the mansion on the hill. By the fourth day, the elders decided the matter could no longer be ignored. Elder Nwoke sent word to the talking drum, a deep, booming rhythm that echoed through the village. Let all gather beneath the great Yidala tree at sunset. When that drum sounded, no one dared stay home. That evening, as the sky bled orange and birds returned to their nests, the people of Nuoma gathered under the ancient tree whose roots twisted like the memory of the land itself. Women arrived with wrappers tied firmly around their waists. Men came with walking sticks and thoughtful faces. Children sat in quiet circles, sensing the seriousness of the moment. At the center sat the council of elders, Elder Nwoke, Elder Matsi Okri, Mama Ngozi, and others whose gray hair spoke louder than their voices. The murmurs quieted when Elder Nwoke lifted his hand. He looked around slowly, letting silence stretch like the calm before a storm. "My people," he began, his old voice steady and wise, "the son of Chief Kamalu has gone blind, and now a young maid has entered the house, speaking words that shake doors and soften hearts. We must understand what is happening, not to blame, but to protect." The villagers nodded. Mama Ngozi leaned on her staff and spoke next. "In our land," she said, "blindness without cause is never ordinary. It is either a message or a warning." Whispers filled the air like soft rain. A hunter stood and declared, "Some say that Maid came with hidden spirits." A woman shook her head. "No, my niece works in the mansion. She told me the girl comforts the boy more than any doctor." Another added, "Her presence is too calm, too wise, too knowing." The elders listened, their faces unreadable. Finally, Elder Nwoke struck the ground with his staff. "We must hear the truth from the chief himself. We must send a delegation to the mansion." The crowd gasped. Going to the mansion uninvited was no small thing. Chief Kamalu was a man of power and pride. Yet something about the situation felt bigger than him, bigger than the village. "Who will go?" someone asked. Before anyone could volunteer, a guard from the mansion came running up the hill, panting heavily. Everyone turned to him. He bowed quickly before speaking. "The chief requests the presence of the elders tonight." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Chief Kamalu rarely summoned the elders. The fact that he had done so meant something had reached a breaking point. The elders exchanged worried glances. Elder Nwoke nodded. "Let us go." When they reached the mansion, they found Chief Kamalu pacing the courtyard like a lion trapped in its own cage. His face was worn, his eyes red with sleeplessness, his voice hoarse with worry. "My elders," he said, bowing slightly. Something he seldom did. "Thank you for coming." Elder Matsi Okri rubbed his beard. "We heard the drums of trouble, Chief. The village is uneasy." Chief Kamalu took a heavy breath. "There is a girl here, a maid. She says strange things. My son listens to her. The boy is blind, yet she speaks as though she sees more than all of us." The elders remained silent, letting him continue. "She said that my son is blind inside, not outside." Gasps filled the courtyard. Even the elders stiffened. Mama Ngozi squinted her wise old eyes. "And do you believe her, Chief?" Chief Kamalu hesitated, then his shoulders sank. "I do not know what to believe anymore." Elder Nwoke stepped forward. "Bring the girl." A guard hurried inside. Moments later, Amara walked out quietly, her wrapper tied neatly, her expression calm, her footsteps light. She bowed respectfully to the elders. "I greet you," she said softly. They stared at her long and hard. "Young girl," Elder Nwoke said, "we hear you speak words that do not belong to someone your age." Amara's eyes lowered humbly. "I only speak what the heart tells me." Mama Ngozi tapped her staff. "What is happening to the boy? Why is he blind?" Amara looked up slowly, and though her voice remained gentle, her words carried an unsettling weight, because he'd been carrying a wound for many years, a wound no one cared to heal. The elders exchanged puzzled glances. "Wound?" Matsi Okri asked. "What wound?" Amara took a soft breath. "The wound of loneliness. The wound of fear. The wound of a child who lost his mother, but never received the comfort he needed." Her words dropped into courtyard like stones thrown into a still river. Everyone stared at her. Even Chief Camelou felt his heart clench. How do you know these things? Elder Nwoke pressed. Amara hesitated. I know because I have seen this type of pain before. Something flickered in her eyes. Something old, something deeper than her age could explain. And what must be done? Mama Ngozi asked. Amara turned toward the mansion slowly. Tonight, she said, we must gather in the inner hall. All of us, even the boy. The chief froze. What? He can't even walk without help. Amara stepped closer, her face calm but firm. Chief, if we do nothing, your son will remain blind forever. It is not his eyes that need healing, it is his spirit. A cold wind swept through the courtyard as though the ancestors themselves had passed. Elder Nwoke nodded solemnly. Then let us gather. Inside the great hall, lanterns flickered like nervous hearts. The elders sat in a half-circle. The chief paced behind them. The staff watched from the walls. Guards guided Darren into the center of the room. The boy trembled, sensing the tension but seeing none of the faces staring at him. What is happening? He whispered. Amara approached him gently. Darren, this is not a punishment. It is a path. Her voice was the only thing keeping him from collapsing. The hall fell silent. Amara stepped closer and knelt in front of him. Darren, she said softly, do you trust me? I don't know, he whispered. Then listen to my next words with your heart, not your fear. The elders leaned forward. The chief held his breath. The entire hall felt the air shift, heavy electric, expectant. Amara leaned close to Darren's ear. The same sentence she had whispered on the day she arrived. A sentence so soft that no one else heard it. But its effect was immediate. Darren gasped sharply. His hands flew to his chest. He staggered backward as though struck by a truth too heavy to hold. What is happening to me? He cried, shaking violently. Chief Camelou ran forward. Darren, my son. But Amara raised her hand gently. Let him face it, she said softly. The darkness inside him is fighting its last battle. The elders watched in awe. For the first time in his life, the boy who hid behind arrogance was confronting the pain he never dared name. His knees buckled. Tears streamed from his eyes. He cried. Not the cry of a spoiled child, but the deep, broken cry of a wounded spirit finally breaking open. Amara watched him with sad, steady eyes. The elders were speechless. Chief Camelou felt his heart tear apart. Something profound was unfolding. Something the village had not seen in decades. Something far beyond the understanding of doctors. And when Darren finally whispered, Amara, why does your voice sound like my mother? The entire hall froze. The elders' eyes widened. Chief Camelou's heart stopped. And Amara closed her eyes. Because the truth was finally rising to the surface. The sun was settling into its golden evening glow, stretching long shadows across Mbala's state as word spread. The elders had gathered, and the final truth about Cato's blindness would be revealed. The villagers walked in groups, whispering among themselves. So the boy was never attacked by spirits. Maybe the girl is truly sent by the ancestors. I said it. Poverty does not cancel wisdom. Inside the courtyard, Elder Kamau raised a staff, signaling silence. Cato, he began in his calm, ancient tone, today your eyes will see, not just the world, but your own heart. Cato, sitting beside his father, clenched his fists. He felt anger, shame, confusion, and a strange spark of hope, all fighting in his chest. Omar stood behind them, anxious. He had spent weeks carrying guilt like a stone inside his stomach. And Amina, she knelt quietly near the elders, eyes lowered, hands shaking slightly, but not from fear, from the weight of truth finally coming to light. The elders demand the truth. Elder Kamau turned to Amina. Child, repeat the words that brought the boy back to our world. Amina inhaled softly. Then she whispered the exact sentence again, the same words that had shocked Cato weeks ago. Your blindness is not from darkness. It's from the sin that hides in your heart. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Omar's face turned pale. Cato swallowed hard. Explain, Elder Kamau commanded. Amina lifted her head at last, her voice steady, her eyes burning with truth. My mother used to say, "A child who hides a wound will die from the infection." Cato was hiding a wound, a spiritual one, and that wound was caused by someone close. The elders nodded slowly. "And who caused this wound?" Elder Adino asked. Amina pointed, not shaking, not hesitating. Straight at Omar. The courtyard exploded with noise. Women wailed. Men shouted. Children clung to their mothers. Omar fell to the ground instantly, tears rolling down his cheeks as he bowed his head. "Cato," he whispered, voice breaking, "I never wanted to hurt you." Omar confesses everything. Elder Kamal lifted his staff again. "Speak." Omar forced himself to stand. His knees trembled. "I stole the documents," he admitted. "I lied to the investigators. I made it look like Cato had been careless with the company funds." Gasps filled the air. "I thought—" Omar's lips quivered. "I thought he looked down on me. I thought he believed I was just a poor village boy pretending to be someone important." He shook violently. "And I wanted him punished. I wanted him humbled. I wanted him to fall so I could rise." Cato stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Elder Adieno's voice thundered. "You betrayed the boy who trusted you. You wounded a brother's spirit." Omar dropped to the ground again, sobbing, "I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry." Cato's final test. Elder Kamal turned to Cato. "Boy, your body healed because the truth entered your heart, but your spirit is still blocked. The ancestors will not release you fully until you pass your final test." Cato's heartbeat slammed against his ribs. What must I do?" he asked. Elder Kamal pointed at Omar. "Forgive him, not with empty words, but with your soul." The crowd murmured. Omar trembled. Cato froze. "Forgive? Forgive the man who stole his reputation? Forgive the friend who destroyed his life?" He wanted to scream, "I can't." But Amina's voice echoed in his mind. Blindness is not always in the eyes. He turned to Omar, memories hitting him like waves. The nights they stayed up studying, the promises they made as boys, the laughter, the dreams, then the betrayal, the pain, the darkness that swallowed him whole. Cato's eyes filled with tears. "Omar," his voice cracked, "you broke me." Omar sobbed louder. "But," Cato continued, choking, "I now understand something. You didn't break me out of hatred. You broke me because you were broken yourself." He took a slow step toward him. "I forgive you." The courtyard went dead silent. Then suddenly, a hush fell upon the villagers as a beam of evening sunlight hit Cato's eyes. And for the first time in months, Cato blinked. "Wait!" A voice shouted. "Look! His eyes, his eyes!" He blinked again. He squinted. He lifted his hands. Cato could see. A cry of wonder rose from the people. "It is a miracle. No, this is justice. It is the ancestors. It is forgiveness." Amina closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Elder Kamal nodded approvingly, stroking his beard. The resolution. Omar, overwhelmed, threw himself at Cato's feet. "My brother, thank you, thank you." Cato lifted him up gently. "You must redeem yourself," he said softly. "Go to my father, confess, correct everything you damaged, and rebuild your life with honesty." Omar nodded vigorously, still crying. "Amina," Cato continued, turning toward her, You restored me. You saw what no doctor could see." Amina bowed her head deeply. "I only spoke the truth the ancestors showed me," she whispered. But Cato shook his head. "No, you saved me, and saved a friendship that was about to die." The elders smiled. Elder Adino raised her staff and declared, "Let this be a lesson to our children. Betrayal blinds, but truth and forgiveness heal." The people clapped, cheered, ululated, and praised the wisdom of the elders. The moral lesson. That night, the village griot sang the story for the youth. The eyes that refuse to forgive will forever see darkness, but the heart that forgives opens the path to light. Cato's life changed forever. He rebuilt his future. Omar rebuilt his character. Amina became a respected young woman across the region, the maid whose whisper healed a billionaire's son. And the elders, they believed the ancestors, smiled that day because a boy who was blind learned to see, not with his eyes first, but with his heart.